Hey guys, welcome to today's YouTube video, and today I'm going to be showcasing a game that Ding Liren played against Jinji Bai in the Chinese chess league. Yep, Chinese chess league. And this game really showcases. Hold on, sorry. This game really showcases Ding's brilliance in chess and how he's tactically and positionally very strong, and he just absolutely crushes his opponents by continually putting pressure on them and just simply out-calculating them. Now, I'm going to kind of go through the opening fairly quickly since it is very common in Nimzo Indian theory. So essentially it's castles, black goes for c5 to break open the center with the c-pawn. And now we just take and play knight out to c6, attacking the queen, very simple. Attack the bishop now. If trades, we get the bishop pair, which is advantageous. And here we already have equalized with d5. And white just puts pressure down the d-file. So it would not be very good for black to take here, because essentially we would just take and now we have an attack on the queen. So that's just not really good. Essentially we get a central pawn for a flank pawn, which is usually advantageous for the person not losing the central pawn. So that would not be a good trade for Ding, but we play, Ding plays a very aggressive move here, g5, essentially kicking away the bishop back to g3 and stopping the pin on the queen. I wouldn't recommend playing like this if you're a beginner, because it really does weaken your queen, and let's be honest, king safety is really hard to evaluate sometimes, especially when it doesn't look that unsafe. It usually is a bit too aggressive. So don't play like this. You're not a super GM like Ding. So just keep that in mind. So putting knight on e4, just a nice knight in the center. Jinji moves his knight back to put pressure on the knight in the center. Arguably Ding's best piece currently. So Ding moves it out of the way with tempo, attacking the queen, and the queen has to move back to c2. Now you'll notice that these squares are available for the knight to move to in the future, which will also attack the queen. And both these knights will see the d3 square, which could be advantageous if the bishop ever stops looking at that square, or if the queen ever stops looking at that square. But Ding breaks open the center here, which is very principled since white's king is still in the center. And if, for example, if white takes here, then he basically loses instantly because we get a nice piece in the center. The queen cannot join the center at all, so the queen has to go all the way back to b1, which may look a little bit nice, but the queen has like no squares to go to. And we just play e5 and solidify our knight in the center. And if white takes, we pin and win with f6. So that is not a thing that white can do. So instead, white goes to f3, just putting more pressure on the d-pawn. And now we go e5 now, and we can take this knight after white takes on e5, and this is a queen sacrifice, you'll notice. So white does accept the queen sacrifice, but we take on b2 with check. And the king moves forward, and we already have a massive advantage of -3. After rook takes d8, we are threatening to fork the king and the queen, supported with the bishop here. So after queen takes b2, you'll ask, well, now you have the fork, right? But white gets enough material for the queen, and actually, you have to take on d2 here. Wait, what? Bishop takes d2. Ah, you can't take back the bishop. But you'll notice that knight takes c6, and then king takes d2 because there's no longer a fork. Not no longer a fork. This is a bit weird. Knight to e4 check. King to e1, and knight takes e5. And I'm assuming knight takes f2, that's why. So the reason that white had to take the knight before taking back with the king is so black cannot take on e5 and dislodge the bishop from defending the f2 square. That's a bit complicated to see, so leave it to the computer. So instead, we play knight to a4, attacking the queen again. So after queen back to c2, you'll wonder, like, is white just kind of wasting time with these queen moves back and forth? Literally just moved back and forth, wasted time except winning a pawn, right? Well, knight to c3 check just absolutely pushes the king out into the open, and this is where you kind of start getting ideas of mating nets, which is putting your pieces on squares that kind of like restrict the king, and eventually a checkmate will show up. That's what a mating net is. So Ding plays this insane move, which is the start of the mating net. You'll notice that the king is actually in stalemate right now. If there were no pieces on the board, only these pieces, and assume this is a pawn, the king would be in stalemate. And the reason that white cannot take here is simply because there's a fork picking up the queen. So white makes more space for the bishop, which will in turn make more space for the king. Very logical. Yep, just very logical. Making more space for the king. Want to try and avoid like too much mating net power to avoid getting checkmated. But black just simply has g4 check here, supported with the bishop and the rook, forcing the king on to g3. And we play simply rook to d2. The idea being if white takes, then we go to e4 and again pick up the queen. So just these insane like tactics just keep showing up for black here, simply because the king is just weak. And that's what it comes down to. The king is very weak, so we can just exert unbelievable pressure on white until his position just cracks, which it already has technically since it is -7 here. In fact, the top move was just losing the queen by taking on d2, because now we go knight e4 check, and white is forced to an even more dangerous square, pushing him up the board to h4, and after bishop all the way back to e7 check, we're forcing him even further into our position, and you can just feel there's going to be a checkmate soon. And Ding just plays an absolutely monster move here. Again, the ideas of the mating net. You want to restrict the king. So how do you do that? These squares are already taken up, but there's still this square, and you can't move the bishop to take away the h6 square. So what piece can you move? Well, you can either move the rook, but that puts it in line of the sight of the bishop, but you can move the king. Kings can restrict other kings. So Ding plays king g7, taking away the h6 square from white's king, I should say. And bishop f4 is the top move to the credit of Jinshi. And rook takes f2 is the top engine move, but instead Ding goes for a more mating net approach, which is bishop to f6, just trying to restrict the king even more, getting a piece closer. You can feel there's going to be a checkmate soon. So if white doesn't play accurate here, it's either mate in 16 or mate in 2. But if white plays perfectly here, it is -13. So it doesn't really matter if white gets mated or not here. Ding's going to win this game. So after bishop to h6 check, the top move actually, so credit to white here, king to h7 is still restricting the king, still putting pressure on this bishop. And queen takes b7 here, again the top move, credit to white. But black's position is simply just too strong after rook takes f2. The rook is getting just closer to the king. You can feel after like the bishop moves, maybe moves back, there's going to be like a checkmate on f5. So black chooses to block the f5 square with the bishop, and if black takes, you get more squares for your king, so you don't really want to trade here. Even though it's not actually a trade because it's just a free piece. So there's that. But not really, since you're kind of getting your own king in trouble, and also this is hanging, so It is a free piece, but not really. You do lose some advantage after trading, but here it's already mate in 7 after rook to h8. And if you take this free knight on c7, it's just mate in 5 after king g8 check, king check, queen to h6, rook to h6, king takes h6, bishop takes g5, king to h5, and f6. Yep, f6. And the top move here is a3, which is kind of just a garbage move, I'm going to be honest. Like, what is that? Knight g3 checkmate, which is absolutely monstrous. So after instead knight takes f7 to stop the discovered check, since if king moves, you simply just take the rook. But instead you can give the check with the bishop, and you can pick up the knight here. But after king takes g4, since you did leave the defense of that pawn, you simply have knight to e5, and it's checkmate in 3 after knight takes e5, knight takes e5, bishop to f5, king to h5, king to g7 check. I wish there was a king checkmate. I'm sorry, guys. I wish there was a king checkmate. Bishop to h6, and rook takes h6. So Wright did resign all the way back. Wait, Wright didn't resign ever? I didn't know that. Apparently this all happened. This all happened. My bad. I thought Wright resigned earlier. But yeah, this is just a showcase of what Ding can do. I know that Ding's playing a World Championship right now as of April 11th, 2023, at the time I'm making this video. And personally, I like Ding, although he did lose a game already, so it's kind of iffy whether he can even win or not at this point. But I like him as a player, so I just want to showcase his power. And hopefully you can kind of see how good he actually is at chess from this game. I mean, this is like a 2550 rated GM, so it's no light task to make an opponent this strong look this weak. So yeah, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow.